Nicole Moss here, co-founder of Moss Consulting HR Services and your host for Easton Park TV. I'm here today with Tim and Keith, who are the co-owners of Paws On Chicon. We are going to talk about dog food and passion for people and passion for dogs. We're going to jump right in, learn about where you both came from, and we'll start from there. Why don't we start from the beginning of you haven't always been in Austin. Where did you all come from and what brought you here?
Yeah, well, I was born and raised in Alaska, and I moved to Seattle, and that's where I met Tim a little over 25 years ago.
Okay.
And I was in lots of different things. I was in insurance. I was young. I sold credit card machines door to door.
Cool. Okay.
And then I got into real estate. And so within a year, I got so busy. I had Tim quit his corporate job, which he was at T-Mobile as a manager, which he can tell you about. But I got so busy, I needed help with that. And within 13 years, we had a real estate company where we were the top agents in 3 states.
Oh, awesome.
And so we kind of got burnt out with that. And Seattle's rainy.
Yeah.
It's beautiful in the summer. Everybody goes there in the summer and then they stay and then they're like, oh, it's the wintertime. It's wet and it's gray. And so.
Yeah. By that point, I had spent nearly my entire life in the Pacific Northwest.
Okay.
And although it's beautiful and truly a gem, sometimes you just don't appreciate, the familiar as much.
Yeah.
And we were really just looking for, some warmer days and some sunnier days. And so we were thinking we might go abroad. We were looking at Panama. We were looking at Costa Rica. We were like tooling up for like big life change.
Okay.
And then we had friends who were here in Austin who caught wind that we were thinking about making a move. And they said, you should just come to Austin, and visit for a week and just, see what you think before all that happens. And like everyone, we got here in April. It was balmy, but not hot. And, that was 2012. So it was a bit smaller and lower. And, it looked a lot different.
Yep.
And we thought, wow, this is really cool. And then, our friends took us around and introduced us to people, and like immediately, like everyone wanted to talk to you, and it's like, oh, hey, we're having a barbecue, why don't you guys come? And like everyone was suddenly your friend, and we just felt so welcome. It just, that week sealed the deal. We looked for some houses, we found a house and put together a plan, and 10 months later we were here.
Very cool. Yeah. Austin is cool.
It is.
Austin's really cool. And the change from like 2012 to now is insane. I grew up like in the area, and so I've been alive 37 years. I've been aware of, Austin for not that long, but I mean, just the landscape of Austin, like it's insane.
Yeah.
It's insane. Before we started our business, I was in commercial real estate, and it was really fun to be in commercial. Like we felt a little responsible for the skyline, which was always really fun to like talk about and move through. And the people that I used to work with were still, of course, very close with. And I'm like, there's such a responsibility to commercial real estate, whether it's residential or commercial in any city. Yeah. I think Austin's done it really well.
Yeah. They could fix the traffic.
They could fix the traffic. You know what's so crazy? We were driving on we work and like live out of our house. So I almost never leave. It's probably not healthy. I need to leave more. We were driving down 35 the other day, and the construction that they're doing, like traffic's always terrible, but the fact that they're able to like create they're creating another level on 35 without, traffic really isn't impacted. It's fascinating and very cool that they can do that, but we got to do something because it's it's brutal. So so you went from, really it sounds like your past life was in real estate, like a majority of it. How did you get from, which also, by the way, makes sense that you guys made it like a play on Chicon Street, like because that is, when did y'all open that?
So we opened that October of 2018. So the end of 2018.
When it was popping over there.
Yes.
Like, I'm sure it still is, but that was like, Chicon was like one of the, on the east side, like one of the newest, coolest places to be, right?
Right. Well, and the thing is, you know, it's a staple. That name is a staple of Austin.
Yeah.
So, we have the pleasure to be able to say that we're on there, right?
Yeah.
And being by 12th and Chicon, I mean, that intersection has history, both good and bad.
Yeah.
It has a certain reputation for people who have been here for a long time.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's absolutely transformed over the last several years. And
Yeah.
Very cool. And was that intentional, or was that just where there was space?
There was commercial space. So our first location was it's a condo.
Okay.
There's condos above it, but then there's commercial space below it.
Got it.
So we bought the condo. So we actually own the space.
Cool.
And so I was still working in insurance at that point, and I wanted to do something different. And, the love of my pets is kind of what, definitely got me into this. And just knowing what we wanted to do, we started in 600 square feet, and this was supposed to be me going to work with my girl every day.
Okay.
And having coffee and meeting people and this and that. And within 6 months, it was like, nope. She has to unfortunately stay home. We busted down the wall, moved it into took over the space next door, and we couldn't get bigger because there's stairs on each side.
Oh, that was like as big as the space
big
could
as it could get. Yeah.
Yeah, the original footprint was only 600 square feet. You
Wow.
could literally get
Tiny.
4 people in there, 3 if they brought dogs.
Yeah.
And that was as
Wow.
much.
Is it
as
about
we
as
had.
big as this room?
Maybe just a little bit bigger, but not much.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
was, and because it was just supposed to be a little boutique thing, and and I started doing research on nutrition and things like that, and it happened real quick, and so we basically built 2 stores within 6 months, because we built the first one, and then we had to go through the city and build a whole another one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
essentially,
This is when you broke through the wall?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And we added the dog wash stations and things like that, and
Very cool.
More stuff, and so that store has just, it's a staple in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And that's one reason why I'm really excited about Easton Park too, because there is no better feeling than getting to know the neighbors, getting to know the pets, and getting to know the owners, and them come in. They walk by the stores when they're walking their dogs. Our South Congress location isn't like that, right? Because it's off a busy road.
Right.
So I really miss that aspect of that. And so that's one reason why I'm super excited about, Easton Park.
Yeah.
And we got into the pet industry down here. I mean, we were looking for something new to do when we left Seattle, and we sold the real estate company. And we noticed when we came down on that visit that everywhere our friends took us, had a patio.
Yeah.
And on every patio were tons of dogs. There were dogs everywhere.
Yeah.
And we looked around and said, okay, well, the next business venture has got to involve dogs. And, ours were our inspiration for health and wellness and all that. And it's like, we've got to do something for pets. So in the time that we were making the plans to come after that first visit, it was putting together the plan for what we might do when we got here. And it went through various twists and turns. And we had different ideas of what we might land on. But then it really solidified around that first space over at Chicon. When that space became available, we knew either if we didn't use it ourselves that it would be something that someone in the community could start a business in, and we were happy with that. But then it was like, you know what? We have this space. Why don't we try this boutique and see what happens? And
here we are.
And then Keith's being very modest because he never does anything small. He was never going to be satisfied with a modest little boutique.
Yeah.
It's just not Keith.
Yeah. I mean, somebody who can grow a real estate business into 3 states, like being like, oh, I'm going to walk downstairs and drink coffee while I sell pet supplies. Great idea.
Right.
In the beginning. And maybe you did that for what? I was going to say a month. That seems like a long time, like a couple of weeks. And you're like, you just got to build it.
Yeah.
I can so relate to just the idea of like, I'm going to get up, I'm going to get my coffee, I'm going to have a no stress job, I'm going to go sit, meet the community, hang out with my pup, to let's build this thing. It's way more fun to build.
It is. It's fun to see where it ends up.
Yeah.
Right. And it's kind of like, where's all that hard work? Like, when I first started, it was literally my mother,
Okay.
my best friend, and me. 7 days a week, 11 hours a day. There were just 3 of us running this shop. Right. And I mean, I've never had employees before besides, in real estate, they're their own employees,
Sure.
right? So we had people doing that, but they were still their own employees.
Right.
So this was a whole new ball game for me. And I'm still 6 years later learning how to deal with employees. And for me, one thing is it's hard to give up control. It's very hard for me to do that.
I understand.
But I'm learning that in order to make things run smoothly, especially when you have 20, 22 employees, you have to step back and you have to trust people and let other people do that. And that's very hard for me.
Yeah.
But I have to do that, right? Because I'm going gray. I'm not that old. I'm going gray everywhere. It's time to do that.
Yeah.
And we like to travel. We like to go do things. And it's like, well, what is the point if I'm always working all the time? He's always working all the time. If we don't get to go enjoy it, what's the point of having this, right?
Yeah.
The point is I mean, I love dogs and I love, the people and the community. And that's one thing we've built in 6 years is community. And so that makes me very proud and that makes me get up every day.
Yeah.
But boy, was it nice after my girl passed away 3 weeks ago to go sit on a beach for a week and just not just soak it in and stuff. I mean, so, it'd be nice to do that once in a while, so.
Yeah. And the other side of that too is, we've been able to employ some really great people and we've been able to coach them and watch them grow and take on more responsibilities and see them, evolve into these roles that they've taken on. And it's really super satisfying to help others to, work up and achieve, this for many of our employees, it may be their first or second job because they're in college or things like that. And I just think back to, I constantly remind myself and think back to how was I at that age and how did I feel coming into, a job and what was it like for me? It was so overwhelming and so different than, just being a student or whatever. And, and so it's been really cool to kind of be that coach and mentor and then bring in those people who can then pass that down again and who can bring those people along. So that's been super satisfying for me as well. Yeah,
you guys know we're in human resources and I love that. It's so fun. There's a lot of you got to do the payroll, you got to do the benefits, you got to provide, a safe place to work, all the rules, the handbook, all those things. Mm-hmm. But when you can get people that you're training and coaching, because sure, they're probably in college or, maybe this is a means to an end or what have you. But if they can leave or they work for you forever, which would be awesome, amazing. But I would assume that in any retail space that there's people move through that, and to know that you're impacting people that are gonna they're gonna remember you forever. That's so cool that y'all are it sounds like you're very intentional about your people and the experience that they're having, and it's awesome.
And the thing is we we always tell our staff, none of our we're all equal.
Yeah.
I get down, I clean those dog washes, I get under the tubs, I clean the dog wash. It doesn't matter if I'm the owner or what. We're all equals. No one's above each other.
Love that.
We just have other things we do, right? And so when we go there, it's important that they realize that. Because if we don't have them, we don't have a business.
That's right.
Right? So you have to I feel you have to treat your staff very well, and you have to take care of them, right? And there's always different ways of taking care of your employees, right? It doesn't always have to be monetary. It can be, all kinds of different things.
Agreed.
We have an amazing program for them. We do a lot for them. And it's interesting because you have the younger generation who just comes in, and then you have the older generation who comes in and they're like, wow, you guys are amazing. You do so much. But someone who just comes in from, high school they're not familiar with the workforce,
Right.
and it's a little harder. So that's interesting for me to work and try to figure that balance out.
Yeah.
And in HR, I'm sure you could probably come across that too, right? There's that different balance.
Generational differences in the way people approach work, and
It's wild.
Yeah.
It's wild. And as I get older and they get younger, it's like, I feel like a lot of the times I'm like, God, I sound like that person that I used to work with who's like, these kids these days, or, like I'm an elder millennial, but like for a long time when I first started working, it's like these millennials, and, and like, I feel kind of the same way. Yeah. But you guys like give off this like servant leadership, like is so important, where you're like, we're doing the same jobs. We feel the same way with our employees. It's like, everybody comes in, everybody learns how to do everything. Because if you can't do the basic stuff, you can't do the high level stuff. Right. Like you got to learn. And the servant leadership is just like, there's all kinds of leaders, but I love the idea of like servant leadership where you're serving your team, because without them, there's no business. There's no dream for, there's no vacations. There's no, all of those things. Like they're so important to the business.
And we require a lot from our staff.
Okay.
We're definitely different than other pet stores.
Okay.
Like we put our staff through, it used to be a 4-week training period, and we've gotten it down because, so I'm a certified pet nutritionist.
Yes, I can't wait to talk about this.
And that I've taken months and months of courses of pet nutrition, a lot more than some traditional vets. Okay. And so I put a program together. Well, our team put a program together with me, and so all of our staff are trained under that. So we know a lot about pet nutrition and things we can do to help pets through nutrition.
Awesome.
And so they're just required to learn more than when you go to even any other local pet store or any Petco or anything like that. My staff will have answers. They're not going to be like, I don't know. There's just, because there's so much to learn.
Yeah.
But it's important to me that they know that, and we have that because we're dealing with people's pets.
Yeah, their lives.
Yes.
So can we talk for a second, because there's a lot of like discussion about grain in food, and like we had vets, Meow Bark came on, and they had a lot to say about grain and like their studies. Like, what can you say about like the world of grain?
I did watch that episode, by the way.
Did you?
So
okay.
I did, yeah.
Excellent.
So it's interesting because here's the thing. I'm just going to give a little kind of how it works. So Mars owns 75% of the vets. VCA, a lot of
like
different.
Banfield.
Yes.
Got it.
So they own
names.
75% of the vets.
Okay.
100% of the testing facilities where the blood work and everything goes, right? So anytime your dog goes in and gets blood work, it goes out to them. They know what is going on in the background, right?
Okay.
So this big company knows what's going on. There was a study in 2000, was it
14?
14? No, for DCM.
14 was the original study.
Okay. Why don't you talk about that? Why don't we go into the whole DCM thing?
Sure. This is kind of the genesis of the grain in and grain free kind of argument and things that go around.
Okay.
There was a study commissioned in around 2014 where the participants were looking for or trying to find a correlation between dilated cardiomyopathy, DCM, enlarged hearts in dogs, and grain-free food.
Okay.
And so the call was put out to veterinarians nationwide through various channels. Please report any cases of dogs with DCM who are eating a grain-free diet to us.
Okay.
We're putting together this study. So only asking for the one side.
Got it.
And a lot of this surfaced in the golden retriever community that have a genetic predisposition to this condition anyhow. So a study was done with a very small sample of dogs, fewer than 600 dogs.
Okay.
And in the study, they named names in terms of brands, like so many were feeding this brand, so many were feeding that brand, so many were feeding this brand, and named names in that. And when it was published, it put out a big scare.
Right. I mean, because most people think of their dogs like their children.
Yeah.
And I know that people with children are like, it's not the same. But we don't have children, and our dogs are our lives.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So it made its way to the FDA, and the FDA reviewed the study and said, we cannot find a causal link between what you are claiming, which is peas and legumes causing a blocker to taurine being absorbed into the dog's hearts through their diet.
Okay.
It was blocking taurine absorption.
And now this study took 4 years, by the way, and that's how long it took for them to realize that and come out the FDA and say that.
Yeah,
Got
so
it.
they did a lot of
Got it.
analysis. They said, we can't find a causal link. Please go back and increase your sample size.
Right.
Go back to the drawing boards and come back to us. So they did. The authors came back in 2019 with about 1,000 dogs
Okay.
in their study.
It's not many more than 600, but
Not
more.
many more,
Okay.
but it was more. Again, submitted back to the FDA. The FDA took time to review it again and announced that they, again, could not find a causal link between grain-free food and a taurine deficiency causing DCM.
And these are 1,000 different dogs in the first 600.
I'm assuming so.
So that's a pretty. I mean, that's a big sample.
Yeah,
bigger-
1,600. I
yeah.
mean, it's,
There's a lot of dogs.
a lot of
but-
dogs. And in 2022, December of 2022, the FDA said, we're basically closing the books on this unless you can come back with something more compelling.
Okay, fair enough.
There just wasn't enough as evidence to substantiate it. So that initial study got out, and that's what most veterinarians will make reference to when they say you should really feed a grain-in food versus a grain-free.
Okay.
The other side of that is all the grain-free, the companies, and especially the boutique companies that were making grain-free food, immediately, once the first report came out, began supplementing their diets with taurine. Just on the off chance that maybe there was some truth to this study, that
Okay.
they were going to add taurine to the diets, they were going to supplement their food with it, and they all did it.
Okay.
This study came out right as boutique grain-free diets were hitting about 50% market penetration. Okay. And I'm not going to go any further into conspiracies, but if you follow where the authors get funding from, it leads you in certain directions. And this is well known and published about other work they have done for certain manufacturers.
Sounds a lot like Big Pharma also.
Yes.
Just
Yeah,
throwing that out
it
there.
kind of
but okay.
it kind of smacks of that.
Yeah.
And so what happened is these grain-free the boutique companies selling these grain-free diets lost about 15 to 20% of their market share. They lost a lot of valuation. And then 2020, 2021, some of these large brands who might have put a little money toward this began buying these companies.
They bought one of the biggest companies.
Yeah, they bought Champion, which makes Origin and Akana pet food, which were right
very
there
high
at the tip
quality,
of the spear, high-quality grain-free diets, and they acquired them at a much better price because of what had happened in the market.
Got it. And now they're probably not as, I'm assuming, not as high quality.
They are.
Okay.
I carry it in the store, and I
Okay.
still look at the ingredients.
Okay.
So I'm always checking the back of the bags to see if things are changing, because I want to know, and I want my staff to know if things are changing, because I want to be able to talk to my customers about it, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of times people came to me and was like, well, they were bought out by Mars. What are we going to do? And I said, well, it is a good food. Don't do anything yet. Let's see what happens. They haven't done anything yet that I've seen. So some people are still on it, right? But there's... That's the thing. And the thing is that when customers come in and talk about DCM and stuff, I explain to them, I said, look, I say, here's the thing. Some dogs don't do well on grains. Vice versa.
Yeah.
Right? Every dog is different.
Like people.
Right. Yeah. And what's hard and what's frustrating is when I hear customers come in and it's just it's like they go down a page and it's like, oh, this. And it's like, let's ask more questions.
Yeah.
We need to ask more questions. And I try to tell my customers, you need to ask your vet more questions.
Yeah.
And let me help you, give you some questions to ask them.
Love
right?
this.
Like, for instance, I always try to tell customers, go to your vet if they try to talk to you about food and stuff, because here's the thing. Grain free, what's important is how many carbs are in that food. Okay. Carb content is very important, because the more carbs you have, the more issues the dog's going to have. There's more fillers, there's more stuff in the food. And so you want to have lower carbs. That means there's more meat in it. It's a higher quality food, right?
It's kind of like filling up on, like, if you go to a Mexican food place, it's like filling up on chips first.
Yes.
Got it.
Exactly. And the thing is I always tell customers, ask your vet, can you do the carb content on the food that you're recommending for me? Okay. If that vet doesn't know how to do carb content, they know nothing about nutrition. And that may be a bold statement, right? But that is basic 101. You come into my staff can show you. Awesome. It's basic 101, because there's different levels of brands of foods, right? And everyone has more carbs, less, meat, things like that.
Sure.
So it's important to know that, right? And it's important to read the back of the label. A lot of people don't know, when you look at the label, you see this much paragraph. Well, that's not what's in the food. If you look from the first word and you find the word salt, that's 99% of your food. Everything
above the word salt?
Above the word salt. Everything down is less than 1% of what's in that bag. Okay?
It's usually the vitamins and minerals and the things they're adding to make it, a fully well-rounded food. So
interesting.
And so you want to have less ingredients from the first word to the word salt, right?
Right, because then that's real, like, more quality, I would assume, ingredients, and not a bunch of fillers.
Correct.
Got it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Not a bunch of carbs, probably.
Correct.
Yeah.
And, and when you look at the proteins, when a bag says, say, 36% protein, which is pretty high.
Okay.
You got to look at the ingredients and say, okay, what is it meat? What's meat? What is peas? Pea protein? Because what they do is they split ingredients. So they'll take one pea, add another pea, add something else, and they split these ingredients to make the protein higher, but it's not coming from food, or it's not coming from the meat. Right. So it's all very deceiving. And so that's one of the things we go over. Right.
That's awesome. Is it safe to assume, so you're picking obviously you guys are the buyers of what goes in your
Correct.
store. So is it safe because let's just be honest, it's hard enough to eat as a human and read the back, all this processed food. We're learning more and more about it every day, of like with microplastics and the way that processed foods are absorbed by the body. So you got to do that for yourself. Then you have to be careful for your dog. And especially in this neighborhood, this demographic, people that have dogs, they're going to do the best. It's they're going to splurge on their dogs.
Right.
So is it a safe assumption to say that if we go going into Paws On Chicon, as the buyers, you're hand choosing everything that you're selling, every food?
Absolutely. Anything that I bring into the store is food that I have vetted. I've looked at the ingredients. Now, remember, there's always different demographics, right?
Sure, of course.
And so what I do, and it just goes with everything with CBD, things like that.
Yep.
I find the best quality for different pricings, right?
Love it.
But the one thing you will never find in my store, corn, wheat, and soy. Okay. No three of those ingredients will ever be in my store. Those are fillers. Corn, it causes aflatoxin, molds in food. That's why a lot of dogs get sick and a lot of recalls. Wheat is where most of the allergies come from for dogs. And then soy is just bad for dogs in general. It's bad so those are the three ingredients I absolutely will not carry. Now, here's the thing. A lot of the big brands have those three ingredients in it as fillers. And a lot of the testing says corn is a good protein. I've never seen a scientific thing that says corn is a good protein, right? It doesn't, it's just filler. And there's actually been a study that there's been more corn sold. Corn is the biggest thing in dog food. Corn. Then it by hundreds and hundreds of, it's just absolutely crazy. Then chicken, right?
Okay.
But corn is the biggest filler in any dog food, and dogs just don't need it.
Well, dogs like to eat meat. I mean, if you think like
it's just used as an inexpensive form of protein as opposed to meat protein. So, and for the whole grain in and grain free thing too, I just want to kind of close the loop on that. You can feed your dog really great grain free food, and we can talk about the safety of grain-free food and kind of the fear mongering that has been done with this study. But if you prefer a grain-in diet, we have fantastic selections that are grain inclusive. They're just not going to include things like the corn, wheat, and soy. Right. They're not going to have the risky grains, that are going to contribute to yeast infections like wheat does.
Okay.
Right? They're not going to have corn that's going to run the risk of aflatoxin contamination. And aflatoxin builds up in a dog's body over time, just like mercury does in people.
Okay.
And it can lead to cancers as they get older. Same thing with soybeans, okay? The soy, it causes hormonal problems. It can lead to diabetes in older age. It can lead to cancers in older age. They're just problematic ingredients that just really don't belong there. And my kind of rule of thumb that I talk about with customers is if you've seen the food advertised on television, you know where that company is putting their money. They're putting it into their marketing. They're not putting it into their product.
Right.
Well, and the thing too is, we do get a lot of people come in grain or grain free, and you have to ask them a question. You have to ask more questions. You have to be, has your dog had grains? Have they been on grain free? Because again, some dogs don't do well on grain free. Some dogs do well on, and then so you just. I feel like we ask so many questions that we can get more to the root of the problem, right?
And we don't want to be, like crazy and conspiratorial and everything, but I mean, there is these things happened, and it's kind of hard to like deny that where this was all coming from.
Well, I think as we as consumers, right, like the more that we learn and the more that, whether it's for your pets or for yourself or things you're buying for your home, this whole microplastic thing is really becoming such a hot topic. Like we as consumers, we have access to information that we didn't before. Like, I mean, you just think about the access to information you had 5 years ago or 10 years ago versus today. And then you have the opportunity to use like ChatGPT and like to really learn if you're passionate about something. And I think it's really important to know, like, kind of like we talked about big pharma, these large companies are running so many things and they're putting their dollars into marketing. Like, think about if they put that money into the food.
Well, and that's what I tell a lot of our customers. I said, okay, I just want you to think about this. I want you to think, if you have a small company, like a local company called like Nulo here, they're a Texas-based company, Austin, they're all over, right? But if you think about them, if they went and they killed 5,000 dogs in a recall, if they killed 5,000 dogs, that would shut down their business.
Right.
But you got Mars, you got Del Monte, you got the big companies,
Colgate Palmolive,
that own these big.
Wait, Colgate Palmolive sells dog food?
Yeah, they have
prescription.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
So what I tell people, prescription. So, and we'll get into prescription. We'll go into prescription here in a second. So the thing that I tell people is like, look, if Nulo killed that many people, they'd be gone. They would be out of business.
Right.
The big companies, if they did that and they lost their food company, that's pennies to them. They have all these other companies. So who do you think's going to take the time to have the best quality control for your dog's food, right? And that's why these big companies have so many recalls, like Blue Buffalo. Blue Buffalo has good ingredients, right? And I tell people who come in, it's good ingredients. It's very similar to a brand we have called From. But the difference is Blue Buffalo is the #1 most recalled dog food. From has not had recall, maybe one or two.
One recall in their 112-year history.
In 112 history, right? So
pretty good.
It's kind of like you just talk to people and say, and you put it down to them, and it's like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right? And when you can have that kind of conversation with them, that's why I think in 6 years, people understand and do trust us because we break it down and say, look, this is, and here's the thing. We don't tell people what to feed their dogs.
Yeah.
We don't force them. What we do is I have a whole booklet of all kinds of information we give to customers. You make your decision for your pet. It's your pet.
Yeah.
I'm here to advise and answer questions. And we have almost 600 5-star reviews.
Yeah.
You know, and it's about our nutrition and how we're not pushy. We are just here to help. And you can take it or you don't, you know?
Right.
And all I wanted, like, I'm not here to get you to come in to get $100 shots every week because you have allergies,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
I'm here to find what's going to work best for your dog and what works for your budget, right?
Yeah.
Back in the less than probably 3 years ago, don't feed fresh food. Don't feed any gently cooked food. Don't do that. It's so bad. Well, guess what? Now the tone has changed, right? So because the money is there and it works,
right?
But so it's just very interesting when you see what goes on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the education piece of it, right? Like if you just as consumers and people love their dogs.
Yeah.
No one wants to feed their dogs a bunch of bad dog food, right? Like once you know and you know what to look, it's like you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly.
And that's like the biggest thing when you're going to buy something, and marketing works, and these large companies, you know, there's nothing accidental about the way that a bag of dog food looks, where it's on the shelves, like what colors they use. Like you are supposed to want to buy that food for no other reason than like the psychology behind the effort that they put into the marketing. And it's less than going to like a boutique store and you get it in bulk, and you go to Costco and you're like, oh my God, this is so much dog food. Our dog will never eat that. You're like, what is it though? Yeah. It's everything. Anyway,
well, you know, and it's interesting because you're right. The marketing, dogs don't see a pea in their food.
Right.
Food should not have any coloring in it unless it's the natural pea or the natural carrot.
Right.
There should be no dyes in your pet food. Red dye, it's just bad, causes cancer, right?
For people and for dogs.
Yeah. Did you know milk bones? Did you know if you grind up milk bones and put it on an anthill, it will swarm ants away? It's the #1 dog treat. It has poison in it.
That's how we can get rid of ants?
Yes.
Cheap way to get rid of ants.
So if you want to get rid of your fire ants, go grab a box of milk bones. They're much better for that than for dogs.
Yeah. But interesting, right? Yeah. So and a lot of those things that you see at like coffee shops and stuff, they look like erasers. Mm-hmm. You can use those for erasers. They will erase pencils.
No way.
Yeah, it's very interesting. But you going back to the Costco things, and like H-E-B. H-E-B has a good brand of food. Their food is not bad.
Heritage Ranch.
Heritage Ranch.
Heritage Ranch,
mm-hmm.
yeah. Like their food is not bad food. The ingredients are good. And people will come into our store and they're like, oh, we're feeding Heritage Ranch. Oh, great. Not a bad food, right? I'm not telling you to not change it.
Yeah.
But what I do have is I have another food over here that's higher in protein, right? And it's going to cost you less money, right? So we always typically have a better option that can save them money and be a higher quality food.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people think us smaller stores are more expensive. And if you look at our pricing on our food, we're less than Chewy's, less than Amazon, because the way it works is they can't sell it for less than we can sell it for. The companies put that price down. So we can't sell it for, if the company says $10, you have to sell it for $10. You can sell it for more. You just can't go below 10.
Okay.
Right? So we're always priced like at Chewy's, and Amazon's actually pretty expensive.
Yeah, Amazon food is expensive.
Chewy's, but the thing is so they're priced at what we're priced at. But with our rewards program, we're either giving the 6th, 10th, or 12th bag free.
No way.
Depending on that bag of food, you're getting every 6th bag, you're saving $60.
Right.
Some bags you're saving $100, right? So when you break that out, we always come out being less than that, right? Yeah. So that's one of the things about a rewards program that people don't know about that we like to let people know.
Yeah.
Is we can normally get you a better food for a better price.
Let's talk more about the membership.
Yeah.
Like, just tell me about it. I don't know anything about it. So talk to me like I'm brand new.
Super simple. It's free.
Love that.
You come in, we get your basic information, name, phone number, address, email. We don't spam. We do one monthly marketing email to let people know of the specials that we've got every month. And they love getting it because they want to know what we've got a deal going on. and then you're in the system, and it tracks your purchases automatically.
Awesome.
If the manufacturers are running an online coupon, you get the discount right there at the register. There's no coupons to clip or things to mail away or redeem or whatever like that. It's all right there. When you reach that reward bag level, you walk out with that bag.
Cool.
You don't have to pay to join this program. There are other programs out there, other companies where you pay for a membership and then you get a discount. But, with those types of programs, typically they're pricing above MSRP, and then the discount they're giving you gets you right back to about MSRP. So really you're paying for something that's just giving you you would get that price every day in our store anyway, and then we're going to do you a little better with the free bags.
Love it.
So it's just that simple.
So people in Easton Park and anyone can go into your store, say, I want to join the membership program, and you say, we would love to have you, and just sign up.
When
we're going to tell you really ought to be a member, and this is why.
Love it. Okay.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I train my staff is that when we have a new customer come in, we always ask if they want to join our membership. We explain to them it's free because, again, there are, there's other stores out there that charge.
Yeah.
So we let them know that it's free. And then we also, we will always ask them, hey, what are you feeding your pet, right? Because, again, if you don't know, you don't know. Right. And so we try to, if someone says they're feeding, certain food with corn, wheat, and soy, we explain to them we don't carry any of that because of these ingredients.
Okay.
And then we give them a pamphlet that shows why we don't carry that food.
Love it.
And then we give them samples, right? And they can choose if they want to switch, if they want to continue, and it's all just education.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what gets people coming back, because we're not forcing them to do anything. We're just educating them.
Yeah.
Right. Before I became a certified pet nutritionist, I didn't know.
Right.
I was looking what was on TV. I was looking at the commercials. I was going into Petco and just grabbing the prettiest bag.
Yep.
There are bags on Petco's shelf designed to go for a specific breed, and there's nothing different from that food besides the shape of the kibble
and the cost,
and
because it's a lot more expensive.
Right.
And let's get into prescription food,
please.
Yeah, so this is an interesting one for me because it blows my mind. Why do people need when you go to the doctor, why does a doctor give you a prescription?
Because you're sick.
Okay. And what is in food? What is in that prescription? What is in it? Why do they have to sign off on it?
Chemicals.
Because it has a drug in it.
Drugs.
Right?
Yeah, drugs.
Okay. So when you go to the vet and they sign off on a prescription food, what is in that prescription? Why do you have to get a prescription for this food?
Please tell me, because we pay a lot of money for prescription
food.
There
is no drug in that food.
Cool.
They get sued every single year and pay it off because there is no drug in that food. What it is now, they do put stuff in it.
Okay.
You can put stuff in it to make it different. So what they're doing is they're putting stuff into bad food. So for instance, cats, dogs, sometimes they have kidney issues and they have high levels of kidneys and things like that. They get on a prescription diet, right? This prescription diet works, but what they do is they add a bunch of salt to this bad food. And this salt makes those dogs drink or cats drink, and it clears out those kidneys, to bad food. And you're paying a lot of money for this. So what you can do is you can come into our store, get a good kibble, and add some cranberry topper to it that clears out that kidney, right?
Love that.
And it's a lot less.
Got it.
Or a raw topper or something like that, where you're going to increase the dog's hydration or the cat's hydration naturally through the food that they're eating, as opposed to making their body overly thirsty so that they ingest a lot more water to flush the kidneys. Let's just give them a diet that naturally gives them better hydration,
right,
so we avoid these problems to begin with.
It's kind of like treating the symptoms before fix it. Don't just make them thirsty. Like we have, I say we have St. Bernards too. We lost one, which we talked about. But Kate is a 13-year-old St. Bernard. Y'all met her. She doesn't seem like she's 13.
She's not at all.
She's got that puppy energy.
Absolutely.
But she's on like JD, like joint food for her hips. And we get it from Chewy on auto send. And it's very expensive that we cut it with other food because we're just like, I mean, there's only so many dollars, it's so expensive. What would you guys say to do for joint, like giant breed dogs?
So that's the thing. If you look at the back of the food, so in a lot of this food, they actually add sawdust too. So there's a lot of sawdust in this food that they are feeding these dogs. Yes. So if you look at the ingredients, we can go over the ingredients. And I love when people bring that stuff
the bags.
in. Yeah. Because we explain to them what the ingredients are. But you can add things like green Lipton mussel is a natural way to rebuild the ligaments and joints. It's a natural way to do it. Green Lipton mussels.
Okay.
You can use glycosamine and stuff like that too, right? Those are things you can add to food.
Get good food,
add a decent quality, food, a good mid-priced food that's limited ingredient, right, and is protein forward. You don't have to spend a ton of money to get that. And then you can add one of these supplements. You can add a bone broth supplement, which also is going to be better for hydration and things like that as well.
Right.
When you pair something like green lip mussel, which is going to have a lot of glucosamine and chondroitin naturally in it. And then you also increase hydration, which is going to help provide lubrication and all that throughout the body. You can address these issues without spending $150 a bag.
Right.
Right. And as Keith mentioned, because the other ingredients that are in that food, although it may have, the glucosamine supplements, it may have those sorts of things, that base formula is probably not very meat first.
Yeah.
Some of the ones that have, always watch out for powdered cellulose in ingredient panels.
Okay.
You'll find that a lot in very neutral diets where they need like a low fat diet or they need a low phosphorus diet or something like that.
Okay.
They can't put a lot of meat protein in it because it has phosphorus in it. It drives the phosphorus level up.
Got it.
So we have to fill this kibble up with something. So powdered cellulose, we eat it every day. That's why our shredded cheese in the bag doesn't stick together, because it's made with a grass fiber. That you see the little white powder on your shredded cheese, and it doesn't stick together. Okay, that's what humans get very frequently in dog food. The form of powdered cellulose is sawdust. It comes from sawmills.
Interesting.
Well, and
sad.
Sad. And a lot of times people don't understand that prescription food is not a lifetime thing.
Right.
It even says on the side of the bag that this is for temporary use. But there are people who are on prescription food for years and years. It's a 6-month at the most.
Dang.
Like, it's not supposed to be a long-term thing. We actually have a food in our store that is exactly the same stuff for prescription food, but better ingredients, and they can use it for the same kind of situations.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's a vet formulated line.
Interesting. Well, and I bet like the toppers, that feels like a treat to a dog too, right? You're putting more stuff on it. They're like all excited. Kate has been, we call it dog spam. It's like cold refrigerated food that you like chop up. She loves it. And at 13, she gets whatever she wants. We're like, girl, you live your life.
Absolutely.
But is like, so there's this whole like, in like HEB and even in like, I don't know if Paws On Chicon, I haven't been in years, but like there's a refrigerated food section. Correct. Like, do you have an opinion on this refrigerated food? Is that the gently cooked food you're talking about?
There is. So I'm a big advocate that, so anyone's watching this, they should really watch a documentary called Pet Fooled.
Okay.
Pet Fooled. It's on Amazon. It's on YouTube. It's absolutely free. An amazing documentary to watch. We give it out with our adoption programs and stuff, and we're like, watch this. Just teaches you about the industry and stuff like that. When you get stuff like Fresh Pet in HEB and stuff, that is basically just canned food wrapped in plastic, put in the fridge, okay? It is filled with a lot of stuff for it to sit in there and to sit there for a long time. Sometimes when you cut it open, it will be moldy. Because here's the thing, when you go into HEB is not allowed to touch that refrigerator. That is not their product.
Oh, it's a vendor.
So Fresh Pet has to go in and change it. So a lot of times they don't go in there for months and months, and the food is expired. It goes bad. You just have to be careful for it, right?
Okay.
Now, fresh food, raw food is the best thing. Now, this is where we're going to have controversial, and a lot of the stuff we're saying is going to be controversial too. Sure. But I'm okay. We all have our different thoughts, right?
Yeah.
I'm not here to steer anyone a certain way. I'm just here to give the information for people to do the research, right?
Yeah.
I have people who come in with dogs with cancer. We switch them over to a raw diet. The vet's like, oh, they have 3 months to live. They live 2 years longer, right? There's so much things. You can add shrooms to your dog's food. If your dog is prone to be a breed that has cancer, always add mushrooms to their food. It helps slow down cancer. It helps prevent it. So there's lots of natural things to do. But getting back to the raw food, it adds the moisture, it adds the meat. So one of the most expensive foods was Origins that was bought out by Mars. It's about $117 for a 23-pound bag of food.
That's expensive,
right? There is less than 10 actual pounds of real meat in that food. The rest is filler. So what that means is any other food on the market has less meat in it. So what we do, and I train my staff, is let's talk to the customer. What is your budget? Let's find your budget, because what I'd like to do is I'd like to get, if you say your budget's $75 a month, I'm going to find you a good kibble that is $50 a month. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the freezer section that's all meat and veggies. And you're going to spend $25 on 5 pounds of meat. And you're going to add that to the kibble. You're at your $75 price point, right, that you want to be at, but you have now added 5 real pounds of meat and veggies to that food, and you doing that will add 10% to your dog's life.
That's awesome.
So that is one of the big things we are there and we talk to people about doing, is trying to add those toppers to it.
Or feeding a full raw diet if they're amenable to it, if they can.
A dog your size.
She's a big lady.
She's a big lady.
That could be a challenge, but especially for folks that have smaller dogs, they can oftentimes eat a gently cooked or a full raw diet, and especially if they're buying one of these other brands, they can replace that entirely and still stay very well within their budget.
Yeah.
And feed their dog kind of the ultimate way to feed them. I mean, and when we talk about a raw diet, we have to be careful.
Yeah.
It should be a commercially prepared diet that's been through a safety screening process.
Sure.
It's fully balanced. We're not talking about going to the butcher counter and just getting
a raw steak,
getting liver and getting hearts and whatever, and just feeding them that. That is going to likely have salmonella contamination.
Sure.
That needs to be cooked.
Yeah.
These are prepared in a different way. They're safe and stable.
Got it.
And they don't run that risk. But a lot of times when people hear, oh, I'm feeding that, or I go to the vet, I'm feeding this type of diet, they like, oh, no, there's all this contamination risk. I don't know that they understand necessarily what type of raw diet we're talking about, because there is a world of difference there.
Yeah.
Got it.
And we do get a lot of people who say, hey, I cook for my dog's food. And you know what? I think that's amazing, right? I think it's amazing that you're doing that for your dog, because it's so much better than processed. But what I try to explain and I ask them is, here's the thing. A lot of people will put chicken and beef and rice and potatoes and things in a crock pot and cook it, right?
You're cooking all the good stuff out.
And what I ask them is, where are you getting your zinc? Where you're getting your vitamins? Where are you getting that stuff? Because before I became certified, I did that with my dog. And guess what? His hair started falling out.
Oh, no.
Because I was putting way too much rice, which was carbs. It wasn't balanced, and I was doing a disservice to my dog. I didn't know better, right? And that's the thing. A lot of these, and so I try to think of that when customers come in and they ask these questions, and that's how I train my staff. Think about it before you went through this class. When they come out of class, they're like, oh my gosh, right?
Yeah. Well, and someone taking the time to cook their dog chicken and potatoes and like you really care a lot. I'm going to tell you a story. It's one of my favorite stories to tell, and it's funny. I was in high school and I went over to my grandma Pena's house, which I would do often. And I walked in and she was always cooking something. It was always delicious. And I walked in and I was like, oh my, I'm going to get to eat. This is so good. And I was like, she was making ribs on the stove. And they lived on the south side of San Antonio, didn't have a lot of money. Like ribs was it would have been a big deal for them to like. And I was like, oh my gosh, Grandma, I'm so hungry. I haven't eaten lunch yet, whatever. And she's like, well, the ribs are for Joey, which was their dog. And I was like, she's like, you can have one, but the rest are for him. And I was like, dang, Joey, you're getting ribs. And it was about to be winter. She's like, I got to get him fat. He lives outside. But my grandma would cook, like, make ribs on the stove. Like, that was her whole thing. And then the dog I don't know how good it was for him. He lived forever. The dog was very old when he died, but it was just so funny. And then I was like, do you always cook for them? She's like, I always cook for the dogs. And I was just like,
I love that.
That's amazing, Grandma. But like, I did get one rib, and then she made me a grilled cheese. I was like, I got a grilled cheese and one rib. Dog's getting grilled cheese. It was so funny.
That's amazing.
Steve just put on the little notes that we're never buying dog food from anywhere again. We're canceling our Chewy subscription. Well, because we like.
Exactly.
The Chewy prescription subscription.
Well, we do subscription on our website too.
Oh, awesome.
So people can we do the same thing. A lot of people don't realize that we do the same thing as Chewy's and stuff.
It's so good to know. And I think most people don't think like boutique store,
right.
They do the same thing. Let's talk, which is a really good segue into, y'all have had some really cool things. Coolest pet store in Austin, was that one of them?
Coolest pet store in America.
Top 10 pet store, top 10 coolest pet store in America by Pets Plus magazine.
So cool.
Yeah.
We were voted favorite pet store in Austin right after we opened by Austin Monthly magazine. Austin Fit magazine readers voted us. Last year, we made Yelp's top 100 local businesses list in the United States.
Amazing.
10 of those were in the pet category, so we were one of the top 10 businesses in the U.S., local businesses in the U.S.
So cool.
Through Yelp in the pet category.
Can you talk about you got a prize and then what you did with that, which I love because we're going back to like being servant leaders to your people.
Yeah. So back when we had the Snowpopolis, I can't even say it because I don't ever want to think about that again.
It was terrible.
Right?
Yeah.
So I walked to the store. We had no power. I had my hood on. I had everything. I was there for 3 days, taking people's, giving them the food, writing it down, letting them come back and pay, right? Because they needed to feed their animals, right? So it was an IOU, and they came back and they did all this, right? And so it got to the news. The news, did a story on us. Then Yelp chose, I think it was 4 Austin businesses that did stuff like that during that.
Okay.
And so we were awarded $10,000.
Amazing.
And so what we did, Yelp gave us $10,000. What we did was we spent $2,000 of it on a generator just in case that ever happened again.
Love it.
We took the rest of the funds and divided it all to our staff. Our staff got all of those funds.
Amazing.
So, yeah, because, we're big components on if we don't have our staff, we don't have our business. And it's like our community too.
Yeah.
If we don't have community, we don't have a business.
Right.
And I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but one of the things we do every year is we do a huge event. Last year we had 1,200 people there.
Way.
And what we do is at our South Congress store, we have a stage, a tent. We have 60 local vendors who sell stuff. And then we have a doggy drag show.
No way.
And
it's our signature event.
Yep. And we have a couple of drag queens who come out and host it. All the dogs and cats come out dressed in drags. They have trophies. We've had Shane the Weatherman. We've had
Shane Hinton from KVU was a guest judge last year. Trevor Scott, KXN was a guest judge in the past.
And so the reason why we do that, and Tito sponsors it and gives out free liquor at 10 in the morning.
Love it.
Beautiful, right?
Yeah.
This is an excellent event. How have we never been?
It gives me a little kick in the morning to be able to get on that stage and talk to all these people because I'm pretty shy, believe it or not.
No way.
I am. When I get in a crowd and talk to people, I get shy.
Fair enough.
But we raise money. And so all the money that the drag queens get and the money that that to get for the dogs and stuff.
We have a huge silent auction.
Yes, huge silent auction. Half of it goes to Out Youth every year.
Cool.
And then the other half goes to a local rescue.
Love it.
And so last year, I think we raised almost $7,000.
Awesome.
So, it gets bigger and bigger every year. And it's one of the things that I really take pride in because it's really built, it's become bigger and bigger every year.
Yeah. Community.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it's all about community.
So cool.
Yeah, so.
It is so cool. Oh yeah, can we talk about the dog wash situation? I have to tell you, we had Dr. Jeff came on. He's a podiatrist. He's new here. He just moved to Easton Park, and he's like, the one thing we're missing is like a dog grooming, dog wash. And we were like, well, your dreams are about to come true because Paws On Chicon are about to be here. So can we talk about that and like what that process looks like?
Yeah. I'm kind of thinking I should have put 3 dog washes in, but my staff probably would kill me because it's hard to maintain getting it in and out. But it's really nice because it's $18.99. Everything's included. You even get a water or sparkling water when you do it, right? Everything comes through the hose, so it's like a car wash. You get 3 different shampoos and a conditioner.
Awesome.
Plus a flea and tick.
Flea. So you just go in. You have 45 minutes to wash your dog, dry them.
Cool.
Power blow dryer with heat.
Oh,
and they're in
that's
separate
awesome.
rooms too. So when I designed my stores, I wanted to make sure they were separated because some dogs have anxiety, things like that, and you just don't want them to be in the same room.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you get a private suite for that time, and everything's included. All the shampoos, brushes, scrubbers, ear wipes, after bath spray, of course, the aprons to keep you dry. Plenty of fluffy dry towels.
And we sell
dryer.
packages too.
Cool.
So you buy 5, you get 1 free. You buy 10, you get 3 free. So it's
awesome.
Now, I'm assuming it's going to be the same thing here as it is our other 2 stores. But on the weekends, it gets busy.
Crazy.
And we have a list and people can call in and put it on a list. And, we try to be as fair as possible.
Sure.
So,
yeah. So if you can wash your dog during the week, although a lot of people in Easton Park, like, if you walk around Easton Park during the day, there's a lot of cars and driveways. Just a lot of people work from home, and
absolutely.
it is you have the flexibility to be like, oh, it's Tuesday at 10:30 a.m. I'm gonna go take Kate to the dog wash, so that's super cool. Easton Park is the best. Very, very cool community, very supportive. You're gonna have lifelong customers that I know are so excited to go. A big part of Easton Park is Cenizo. Have you been?
Oh, yeah.
Do you have an order? Do you eat what? Okay, both of you. What is your order?
I always get a vanilla mocha. Iced vanilla mocha.
Ooh, okay.
So
love it.
I think it's a Seattle thing because a lot of people, when I moved here, people were like, vanilla in your mocha?
Yeah, I haven't even thought of that. Yeah. I always get I get a mocha a lot, but I've never thought.
I always put vanilla in it. And
he likes sweet drinks.
I do
like
too.
Yeah, he likes his drinks very sweet.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and they used to have I haven't seen it there lately, but they used to have a local sugar cookie. Someone made a local sugar cookie that was really good that I always get.
Okay.
But I haven't seen them there in a while. So
Harrison, where are
they
those
should
sugar
bring
cookies?
those back.
Yeah, no to Cenizo.
Yeah, I know.
Sugar cookies.
Yeah, sugar
yeah,
cookies.
and I heard they just opened another one down in Dole Valley or something.
They did.
Yeah, congratulations to them.
super
really,
exciting.
really, really excited for them.
I'd love to hear that.
What do you get?
I drink a mushroom-based coffee that,
Got you.
gets rid of the inflammation and
Love it.
I have a much better day when I start with my mushroom coffee. But if I do, I am partial to a sugar-free vanilla latte. That's a favorite, and usually a soy or an oat milk too. I can't do the dairy, so I'm a mess. I'm a mess, unfortunately.
We've gotten off. Steve, he called it one, and I can't get it out of my head, but we're off the meat milk, like cow's milk.
Yeah.
Oat milk. I love oat milk and coffee. There's something like very, like it's like a full flavor. Like I love. Anyway, that's really good. Almond milk too. Cenizo's great.
Yeah.
Cenizo's great. I never liked matcha before. I don't know if your stomach can handle matcha, although matcha gets stuff moving too. But like the matcha at Cenizo is excellent.
Yeah.
And I never would have done it before. But Alyssa, who is on our team, she used to come more often, but she would work out of the house here, and she'd always go by and she'd have her very green drink.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, girl, you drinking your greens? And she's like, no, I'm drinking matcha. And it always was like very chalky. But if I don't know, try it. It's
Huh,
very
I'll
good.
give it
They
a
have a
try.
lavender thing that they can. Oh, it's very, very good. We love Siniso, so shout out to Nancy and Harrison. They're the best. So we're very excited about Paws On Chicon. Do you? I know it's like it's hard to ask this question, but do you know like opening soon?
Yes. So, here's the thing. I would really recommend the viewers to follow us on Instagram.
Okay.
Because I am actually doing like short.
I've seen some of them.
Yeah,
They're
to
so
kind of
good.
like how do you open a pet store? Like the things that we're doing, like the shelvings that we're doing,
Yeah.
setting it up,
You
and
get to watch us put together shelves on the next one that'll be out.
Yeah,
That's fun.
Yeah, and cutting my finger, and but you get to see all the background stuff, and
Yeah.
people tend to like that,
Yeah.
But I'm hoping we're supposed to get keys by April 15th if the city gets us occupancy.
Okay.
Then it will
Tax day.
Yeah, and then it will take about maybe 2 weeks to get stuff in the store.
Sure.
So we're hoping the end of April.
Right around the corner.
Yeah.
Yeah, right around the corner.
And I haven't planned a grand opening event yet. I want to kind of just get it opened, and then I want to have a grand opening day. We're going to have bags for everyone that comes out, and goodie bags. And I have these cute, amazing bags that I got that is a photograph of dogs in Palm Springs.
I love Palm Springs,
Yes,
and I love dogs.
and it's made by an artist, and I'm so excited. I got it just for this opening because it's Easton Park.
Yeah.
And so, we've been waiting I signed that lease back in 2019. And
That was a pre-COVID sign.
Yes.
Yeah, that was supposed to be our second location, but then COVID threw a wrench into
Everything.
everyone's life,
Yeah.
and we all know how that. And then there's been various twists and turns, but
Yeah,
it's
so-
finally we hung in
You
there.
did it.
We're the
we
only
knew we would-
OGs who did. Everybody
Yes.
else has left.
And now,
So-
and now you've got a great. I mean, there's gonna be Chiba Hut right there.
Yes.
The dentists, Enamel Dentistries, those guys are great. And then Frost, and it's a really. Steve and I have been in Easton Park for a long time, and when we moved out here, there wasn't even CVS. Like there was nothing out here. So we were thrilled when CVS came. McDonald's, I know people are really mad about McDonald's. Some people are. We're thrilled, and just to have any retail, like it's great because there's nothing here. So, and it just feels like very grassroots, very Austin, very like local, which we love. So we're so excited, and we'll walk Kate over there. Well, maybe we'll drive Kate over there. She's old these days, and that's a long way for us to walk. But we can't wait. It's going to be so fun.
Well, we love this neighborhood. We've been, coming to events out here and talking to the neighbors out here for
3 or
4 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been, it's like it's coming. We're just we're waiting. It's coming, and we're finally
lot of
out here.
dogs.
And
A lot of
we
dogs.
do soft serve doggy Fro-Yo.
No way.
Yeah.
So we're known for our soft serve doggy Fro-Yo. It's made with goat's milk, ginger, turmeric, and a couple of other ingredients.
So it's
But
healthy too?
It's very healthy. It doesn't have any dairy.
Cool.
And so it's really good for dogs. But that's one of the things that kind of put us on the map, and that's why we won coolest pet store in America as well, is because of our doggy Fro-Yo.
Y'all are so
And
cool.
so,
Yeah,
we have a doggy Fro-Yo truck that we drive around.
No way.
It's an old mail truck that's wrapped in stuff, and we take it to events and
Plays
stuff.
music.
Yeah.
It's like an ice cream truck for dogs?
Barking. Yes, it's an ice cream truck for dogs. It's our event vehicle.
We were so excited to have you on the show, but this is even cooler. Like it's just people that get like when you have a pet, most people, and we would wish all people that have pets would treat them like they are your children, they are part of your family, and like you guys have made that a thing. Like it's like for doggy Fro-Yo, that's amazing.
Yeah,
I love it.
So soft serve Friday, Saturday, Sundays with topping bar.
With topping bar.
No.
And then
way.
we've got frozen cups to take home in original and mini cup sizes that are frozen. You can take home any day of the week.
We'll have to have you guys back on once you're open, and you can come up, take a breath, but just to talk about the business aspect of it, of like why the Fro-Yo, how the Fro-Yo, how all just like the planning for all that. I think that a lot of people that listen are either new entrepreneurs or want to be entrepreneurs, and that is so entrepreneurial.
It's funny. We looked at before we left the Northwest. We looked at opening a Menchie's frozen
cool.
yogurt franchise
Really?
because we both love Fro-Yo, and so he thought, Fro-Yo for dogs. We love Fro-Yo. We can make this, right?
So cool.
Well,
and I thought, you're crazy. You're gonna put Fro-Yo machines in the pets. What? And it of course I eat crow.
I'm sure
every day about it
he's
because
it's just been huge.
Yeah.
And it's so much fun. I mean, who doesn't love watching their dog just enjoy that on a hot day, because we've got a lot of hot
They're
days,
coming.
Yes.
and they're coming back, and just thoroughly enjoying that. And it's a great treat for after a bath. It's like positive reinforcement after a
love
bath.
that.
So
And it's only on Friday, Saturday, Sunday?
for the soft serve, but you can get a frozen cup any day of the week, and they love the frozen
Got
cup
it.
just as much.
So you can go buy frozen cup, but like the live Fro-Yo
Yep.
is
Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
And
Love
our
it.
dog washers will hold up to 200 pounds, just FYI.
Oh, thank
So,
you. That's
big dogs.
Yeah, we'll
dogs.
eventually get another. I hope Saint Bernard. Steve had a Bernese Mountain Dog prior, so we're like big dog
yeah.
people.
Yeah.
And that's good to know, because there are some a lot of Great Danes in this neighborhood. There's a Great Pyrenees that's like a big, beautiful, and he or she, I don't know, is huge.
We get so many of those in the store.
So cool. It's an interesting, when St. Bernard's, it was my dream dog. Like most kids, when you watch Beethoven, you're like, oh my God, what a cool dog. I always wanted a St. Bernard. But big dogs are so cool. And St. Bernards are like, they're just very chill, people are like, do you have a big yard? And we're like, not really, but they don't need one. Like they're not out. St. Bernards are not like scaling, they're not running. They like to lay down a lot. But anyway, just to know that like any dog, any size, cats too. We talked a lot about dogs, but cats.
Yes, we do have cat stuff.
Cat stuff.
We always forget about them. So sorry.
Poor kitties. They want to be forgotten.
But you know what? We're very educated on cats as well, and cat food and cat products. Cats are a different beast.
Yes.
They actually need more nutrition than dogs. So they need more than, so we can always help people with cats and stuff like that. And you know what? We just found, I'm so excited. I'm going to post it on our Instagram. We found an egg supplement. I'm trying to get into the store that if people are allergic to cats, you put this egg supplement and it helps with the allergies and stuff.
No way. That's awesome.
Yeah. So
very cool.
coming out.
Very cool. Cats. I had 3 cats that preceded Steve, like by many years. And he's like, I'm not living with cats. And I was like, well, I've had these cats for 3 years. I've had these 3 cats for many years. Like, I'm not. I mean, and it was a thing. I don't know that we'll ever do cats again, but he held it. The thing is the cats live a long time. Like we've been married 10 years. They were with us for like 8 of those 10 years. So he stuck it out. No more cats. Any more information about the website? Like you guys are building the website. People can do subscriptions on the website, all of that.
Yeah. So we launched e-commerce during COVID because it was a necessity, right? And the solution we had, it was put together quickly, and we did our best with it, but we weren't experts at all. And
it's a beast of its own.
It is. It really is. That's a separate business all of its own.
Yep.
And so it didn't have. I mean, thank you to all the customers who've used that website and who continue to to shop. But it didn't have a great customer experience.
Okay.
And a great user experience. But we switched platforms. It's been a 3-month-long project that I've been heading up with professionals who know what they're doing, and we worked very closely with them. And so last night at 7:30 p.m. we flipped the switch, and the new site is up and running.
Brand new. Okay.
Brand new look and feel, beautiful website, easy navigation, easy to use, easy checkout process. And one thing people have been asking for, because we have so many regular customers who do purchase online for delivery or even in-store pickup, but specifically for delivery, is they wanted the recurring orders.
Okay.
Right? They wanted to be able to set it for, I need this bag every 2 weeks.
Yep.
And whatever, and I just want it to happen. I don't want to have to keep logging in and placing an order. But,
sure.
And so this site has the auto ship feature.
Love it.
And even when you order online, your bags will still count with the free program.
Oh, cool.
So what we do is when you get your 6th bag free, 10th or 12th bag free, we'll email you and tell you to come pick that one up.
Very cool.
Because it's a free bag.
Love that.
So.
Yep.
Yeah. What a great way to get people into the store that are used to just the order. Because it's good to see faces and go in and see,
And we want people to bring their dogs in to give them treats.
Yeah, bring your dogs.
Yeah, they all get treats when they come in, and there's nothing more rewarding than experiencing that dog's life with that pet parent, when they come in as a baby and then seeing them grow up. And I mean, and if they've come in with challenges or whatever, and being able to like help them address challenges and hear them come back and go, gosh, we did this and we did this, and then we, you recommended this and you recommended this and we did those things, and look at them now, and it's so rewarding.
It's so cool.
So we're just, the more people who actually want to come in and bring their pet in, I mean, we just love that, and the staff will just spoil them rotten. So
yeah,
awesome. Well, on that note, I think this was an excellent episode. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Everyone who hasn't been to Paws On Chicon, it's opening in Easton Park soon, and the website is pawsonchicon.com.
Yep, it is.
Yep.
Newly launched at 7:30 last night.
New and improved.
Yeah. So thank you guys so much, and we will see you all next time.
Thank you.
Thanks.